friend's dad kept the other dog. In the hindsight, it was a stupid idea to let us back in the woods like that. If you fear for your child's safety so much that you have to give him a gun, just don't let him go. So we're walking around following trails, just having fun. Dog is kept on the leash though, because in the back of the mines we are both terrified. Maybe some 20 minutes after exploring we find another dead deer without a head. Man, this is getting old, I recall my friend saying. For me, it was just more evidence that it's still around. We find some stream and throw rocks into it. I set down the gun against a tree and friend let go of the dog to let it run around as we relax and chat about girls. Eventually we can't ignore the creepy feeling anymore. I get my gun and we call the dog over. It doesn't come back. We nervously walk back to the cabin, still calling for the dog the whole time. Dad and friend's dad was sitting around in living room with dog resting in between. When we get back, Dad asked if we found anything interesting. No, but now the dog went missing. He just froze for a moment. I don't think he even breathed. Calmly got up and everybody went looking for my dog. Never came back. We kept looking around until just before dark. We went back in the cabin only to find everything thrashed, all of the water gone, all of the gas was gone, all of the food and bullet was thrown around outside of the cabin and stomped into the dirt. The guns themselves were emptied of bullets, our flashlights were destroyed. Bullets are useless, we don't have any food or water or any light. Fuck. We still had a handful of bullets, one gun, and one flashlight that we bought with us when we went looking for the dog. We decide to spend the night in the cabin instead of walking through the woods in the dark with barely any protection. Decide to huddle together again in the living room. This time 2 out of 4 people are on watch duty at all time. Nobody slept well that night, so really all 4 of us were awake half of the time. Whenever someone had to use the bathroom, we took the dog and the flashlight with us. Late in the night we could hear footsteps in the basement. Dog perked up its ears and I woke up my friend. Dad grabbed his gun and everyone just listened. Sounds like footsteps just walking around. This continues for maybe an hour before Dad decides to go check it out. None of us want him to go alone. We all huddle around him as he holds the gun and slowly opens the door leading downstairs. Everybody get on the floor. Walks the dinosaur. Just kidding. Perfect time for that though. By the time the door creaks open, the footsteps have stopped. Dad actually stands atop of the stairs for what feels like a minute before he took another step. He points down the gun, aiming just in case anything wants to jump. All of us step down after him and reach the bottom of the stairs, flashlight searching the whole room. Basement is pretty empty. We checked everything, it's just not there. Impossible for it to pass us on the stairs. Suddenly we hear footsteps upstairs. What the actual fuck? How does it keep disappearing and appearing like that? Dad runs upstairs in rage. We all follow after him trying to stop him. We see the figure already outside, running away into the woods. Dad takes shots at it, then tries to chase after it. Once the bullets are gone, that ain't happening. JPG. Friend's dad, friend and I all restrain my dad. Dad finally calms down half an hour later. Everyone stayed awake the rest of the night. When the sun was high enough, we all headed back home without further incidents. The next day Dad and I came back to set the cabin on fire so it had no place to live. Moved away a year later. Friend didn't. Still have more to tell. 3 years later I called my friend to get in touch because we haven't talked to each other in so long. Wasn't long before we started talking about our experience. Friend said he went back a few months after we moved away, said the cabin was still burnt to the ground, but something is weird about the cabin. He hesitated to go further. Of course I had to ask what was weird about it. Friend tried to avoid my questions, but I persisted. When he went back, the rubble from the cabin had been rearranged. It now formed a perfect circle of charred pieces around the perimeter of where the cabin stood. Nothing inside the circle except for one solitary thing. Sitting in the middle of the circle was a headless, almost completely decomposed body of an animal. Another deer? I asked my friend. No. He said. Your dog. Alright, I've got a story. This one is personal, and happened to me about 8 years ago. It isn't some made-up campfire story, but I'd figured that I'll still post it here since this thread is empty. I'm a pretty slow typer, so this might take me a while. Be me, 16. Working as a farmhand during the summer to make some extra cash. I get room and board, so I also live on the farm at this time. This is in Nebraska, by the way. Anyways, the first 3 weeks go by smoothly. Simple but tedious work. One day the farmer, his name is John, comes up to me. John says, "Hey Anon, I think someone is fucking around in the field at night. I've found corn stalks trampled, torn up, and thrown all over the place for the past 2 days. Do you think you can just watch the field tonight and make sure no one comes back? I'll leave and give you tomorrow off. Accept quest.png. Kinda excited for guard duty, and really excited that I get tomorrow off. Later that night, before I head out to the field, John gives me his shotgun. Tells me to, if I see them, just scare them off, don't shoot anyone unless I absolutely have to, and that he'll come running if he hears a shot. Yeehaw.jpg. Sit on lawn chair next to the field. Do a couple rounds, get bored real quick. About halfway through the night, I hear giggling coming from the court. The sound of children giggling. 3 spooky 5 me. Eventually work up the nerve to walk up to the edge of the field, shotgun in hand, and yell in my best intimidating voice, "You all leave here and never come back, or there'll be trouble." There is a little bit of rustling, and the giggling stops. Work up even more nerve, and make sure they left. I don't hear anyone giggling anymore. In fact, I don't hear anything anymore. No bugs, no wind, nothing. Dead silence. Hoping to not get children of the court, I get out of there, praying that the child giggling didn't start back up. I make it out of the cornfield and, still not hearing any giggling, I take it that whoever was in there ran off. I didn't check the entire field, but whatever. Adequacy achieved. Dawn comes, see John, tell him what I heard, and we walk through the field together. Everything seems fine. Go back to the house to take a much-needed rest. Wake up that afternoon, head downstairs. John is outside talking to the sheriff. John's wife tells me that, while the field was fine, someone stuck into the barn and killed one of the cows. Go out, talk to John and the sheriff about what I heard, go see the cow for myself. Full-scale mutilation. Drained of all blood, missing eyes and organs. Precision surgical cuts all over the body. Sheriff is lost. Asks us if we knew anyone who could have done this. ailamouse.png. John pipes up, and through some sort of Olympian-level mental gymnastics, says that it's still probably just some asshole kids. The sheriff and I are less convinced. Regardless, the sheriff takes his word for it and leaves. John tells me that we are both gonna do a stakeout tonight, with me watching the cornfield and him watching the barn. Seems like a bad idea, but okay. That night, I take the shotgun, he takes the rifle, and we both report to our designated places. I've got a bad feeling about this. I sit on my lawn chair and wait. Hours later, giggling starts back up. Corn starts rustling. I, very timidly, yell out for whoever was there to identify themselves. Instantly regret that. Out of the corn walks a 7-foot-tall hominid with antlers, a very bestial-looking face with snout, what appeared a shit-eating grin, large claws, and with an occasional spike jutting out of a seemingly random places on its body. Oh god, oh fuck. Fire a shot at it in fear, fall over in my lawn chair. Pick myself up and start booking it to the barn. We're talking Usain Bolt levels of speed here. Still, I can hear the thing chasing after me. Trip in a gopher hole. Fucking gophers. I kinda just go into a fetal position and start screaming. Not my proudest moment. I can hear John finally get his ass out of the barn, start yelling, and start firing some shots. I black out. Wake up the next morning in the house, with John, his wife, his daughter, and the sheriff all standing over me. John told the sheriff that some random schmuck attacked me. I tell the sheriff that it was dark and I couldn't ID the guy, so he leaves. Once I am feeling better, John takes me out back and confirms I'm not crazy. He says that once he got out of the barn, he saw the creature on all fours, leaning over me. He yelled, and fired 6 shots at it, before it got back up on 2 legs and ran through the field into the nearby woods. Oddly enough, his description was different than mine. in that he said the creature had a bumpy/bulbous head instead of animal-like snout. After this, we search the farm for any clues. We find a white viscous liquid all over the property. Assume it's some kind of blood. After this, we go into full alert mode. No being out after dusk, always carrying guns, etc. No more problems for the rest of the summer. I'm still in contact with John today. He's a bit touchy on the issue, but claims that he has never seen the creature again, although he will occasionally hear something pacing around the farm at night. Does anyone know what this could be? I'll try to sketch a picture in a minute, but I'm pretty bad at drawing. Here is the best drawing I could make. Mind you, I couldn't see the feet very well, and in hindsight the antlers were certainly longer, but besides those things this is fairly accurate. I forgot to mention, the spikes were everywhere, not just on the sides. I just drew it like that because I'm terrible at drawing anything that isn't plainly 2D. It has been many years since I have told anyone about my experience. I normally keep it to myself, as anyone I tell it to thinks I am crazy. I don't blame them either. If someone told me this story, I would think they were a lunatic. Be me. Just got out of high school, wanted to do something fun. I decide that I'll kayak through the Florida Everglades, by myself. My mom hates the idea, my dad thinks I'll be fine. I had been camping, backpacking, and kayaking for about 7 years then, so I was fairly experienced in bushcraft. Ergo, like my dad, I thought I would be fine. Boy was I wrong. As a precaution, my dad gives me my great-grandfather's old groundhog hunting rifle. MFW, my great-grandfather's groundhog rifle, as I am 1903 Springfield. Regardless, I grab my shit and rush off into the unknown. I decided to kayak around the Thousand Island portion of the Everglades. I pushed off at a small island known as Chokoloskee, and I made my way into the wild. I was ecstatic. Finally I get to enjoy my favorite hobby with no one around to bother me. I camp at a small dinky campground known as Mormon Key. Pick related. It was a 10+ mile kayaking trip to get there, plus part of that was just navigated through the mangroves. Needless to say, I was tired as fuck. Make camp, cook dinner, watch the sunset, and go to sleep. I wake up to howling in the distance. Sounds like a wolf. Problem is, wolves have been extinct in the Everglades since like 1910. Kinda weirded out, but there is a body of water between me and the howling, so I don't really dwell on it. I wake up, make up a quick breakfast, and continue heading south on my kayak. End up going down the Lossmans River. See red circle and pick. Find a place down the river to camp. Set up camp, comfortable night of sleep for the rest of the trip, and maybe the rest of my life. Wake up the next day refreshed, and head further down the river. Eventually hit the mainland. See blue circle on pick. I walk about 1.5 miles east before I decide to turn back. That was a mistake. I tripped, fell, hit my head, and knocked myself out. Fuck me.